Hey there, welcome to Let's Sit With This, a podcast for high-functioning, deeply hurting people who are ready to feel something different. I'm your host, Kristen Calloway, a licensed therapist who cares deeply about helping people heal from trauma and pain. If you're carrying a lot and tired of feeling alone with it, you're in the right place. Let's sit with this together. Welcome back. If you've been following this series, Navigating the Holidays with Tricky People, the first two episodes we've talked about what makes certain relationships feel safe or not so safe, what boundaries are and aren't, and some real-world ways to hold boundaries around things like time, space, food, conversation, and parenting. But this last piece is the one that we all wish we could skip. What if the boundary doesn't go well? What if they guilt me? What if they push back? What if I freeze? If you're headed into a family gathering in this holiday season and already anticipating that tension, this episode is for you. Let's prep together so that you don't have to walk in ungrounded. First, we need to name the fear. We got to name it to tame it, right? It is completely normal to feel nervous before setting or holding a boundary, especially if you've been met with guilt or anger before. If you are someone who tends to freeze or panic or people please when things get tense. And definitely if you're trying something new after years of going along with it just to keep the peace. So you might already be running through conversations in your head. You might be mentally bracing for the comments, the disapproval, the eye rolls, or that subtle vibe that says, you've messed up, you're going to pay for this, you've made things awkward. You might be thinking about how this is going to affect the next holiday that's coming, the next family gathering, the next birthday. Maybe you may not be invited. Maybe there'll be comments. Are people going to talk about me after I leave or the next week? I get it. Let me say this clearly. Just because it feels uncomfortable doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Honestly, it's a sign that there's likely something about this relationship that is unhealthy. If we go back to the metaphor from last episode where I compared setting boundaries to having a fence around your backyard, just because somebody may think that they're allowed to, come into my backyard doesn't mean that I shouldn't build the fence, and not have to deal with that pushback or the questions or the frustration. Even more so, I need to build the fence because I need to protect my space and my time. Before we get into how to respond, I want to pause here because this part matters the most. There's often a big difference between the boundaries that you want to set and the boundaries that you actually feel capable of setting right now. And if that gap feels huge, if the boundaries that you want to set feel light years away, they feel impossible, you're not failing, you're just being honest. If your body tenses up or goes into panic just thinking about saying a boundary out loud, that's really good information. That's your nervous system telling you this is overwhelming. What's important is that we do what is sustainable. What we don't want to do in the conversations that I have with clients is we don't want to have this pendulum swing where we go from setting no boundaries to being really reactive and setting these boundaries that maybe we can't sustain that are coming from a very emotional place rather than a logical place. And then we're just going to pendulum swing back. It is more important to go slow and steady wins the race, man. And it's true. To go very slowly and to set the boundaries that actually feel possible, no matter how small they are. So if setting those boundaries that you want to feels impossible, you're probably expecting yourself to do too much at this stage. That's okay. That's fine. You can probably get there to wherever you're going, but you need to back it up. So when we think about these things, I want you to think about what actually feels capable. Okay. Now, what you want to do what feels possible to do. And so before you push yourself to have, that perfect conversation or just set that boundary that's going to light everything on fire, check in with what your nervous system is ready for. If you're not ready to say it out loud, what internal boundaries can you hold? Internal boundaries are still boundaries, and they 100% count. And that's often where people have to start, is internally how they are thinking about situations and responding to situations and what they're letting happen internally. And we have to master setting the internal boundaries before we can work on and master setting external boundaries. So this can look like choosing not to engage in a topic in a very quiet way. It might look like you jumping up and offering to do dishes so that you don't have to sit at the table where the conversation is making you uncomfortable or someone's comments are making you uncomfortable. It can be that you already have a plan to leave early. And this is I say this very carefully because I know I'm giving general advice. I feel like there are times with boundaries where it is okay to have very small white lies if setting boundaries with people are too difficult. And so if you need to have a reason that's not totally true as to why you need to leave, for the most part, generally, I will say, okay, then that's what's needed. Because honestly, that's a sign of how much people pleasing you've done in this relationship. Something's unhealthy about that. This might look like letting yourself emotionally detach from a guilt trip, even if you nod along. It may mean that you may not step in and say, hey, we need to stop gossiping about this person, but it just may be that you don't really verbally engage, right? You might still be pretending to, but maybe internally that narrative is different. This can definitely be silently reminding yourself, I'm not responsible for their feelings. There is nothing weak or small or ineffective about protecting your peace quietly. You're honoring what you need without forcing yourself into freeze, people pleasing, or panic, which is what you need to do. You start out small, you set what is sustainable, and then you can slowly build from there. But your brain and your body and your nervous system need to have those wins. They need to have experiences where the outcome is, hey, we survived that and it relatively went okay. We could probably, do that again or do that a little bit more. But if our only experience with setting boundaries are trying to set these ones that are emotional and reactive and too far, and then we pendulum swing back, the only thing that we've learned and have added to our experiences is how it didn't go well, which we often perceive as failure, and then you spiral with shame and all of those things. So you can build toward more external boundaries over time, but for now, internal boundaries might be the wisest and safest starting point. That's totally fine. Let's talk about, what does pushback look like? So pushback can be super obvious. It can be those comments of, why are you being so sensitive? It's not a big deal. You've changed. It can be character attacks, blaming you. Gosh, all those things that people can say, the guilt tripping, some emotional or conversational coercion, all of those. Or it can be quiet and still manipulative, but it can be the cold shoulder. It can be the isolation, whispering to other family members, a guilt trip disguised as concern. Well, we were just really looking forward to seeing you all day. Or, we've done this for 20 years, and I just cannot believe that this will be the first year that, you won't be coming. Pushback often shows up as confusion, defensiveness, or shame spiraling behavior from the other person. It can be trying to make you feel bad about what you're doing or how it's going to hurt everybody else. It's not always about you. More often than not, it's about their discomfort with change, and it's about their expectation of if you have boundaries. As a general rule, people who have benefited from you not having boundaries will not like it when you set them, because then they have to change, and they don't like change. So when people have a negative response to you setting healthy, appropriate, assertive boundaries, that is a sign that something is maybe unhealthy, but it's a good sign, a good indication of what their values and expectations are about boundaries. Let's talk about 5 things to help you prepare. First, we're going to rehearse calmly, not ruminate anxiously, okay? So I do encourage people to go over what you plan to say or not say with calmness. And I think everybody needs to practice this to notice what comes up. So maybe it's going to be, that you're going to walk into the kitchen and say, we're going to leave around 3. Or it's at the dinner table, I'm not going to talk about that today. Say those things out loud. Notice that response. Say it a few times. Let your body get used to hearing your voice holding a line. And then take information about your response to what you're saying. Second, expect some discomfort. You're doing something new. Even good things that are good for us and necessary, they can be hard and uncomfortable. That's okay. Don't personalize it though. It's okay if someone gets disappointed. That's their problem. Those are their feelings that they need to take care of. It's okay if someone gets quiet or annoyed. Discomfort is not the same as danger. Now, for people with really dysfunctional, really toxic relationships, changing patterns can signal danger, emotional danger. Takes away emotional safety. So I don't expect what I say to change how you feel or to automatically change the way that you have experienced your family dynamics. But I want you to know the truth. Their reaction is about them. It's not proof that you messed up. It's not that you've done anything wrong. Okay? So number 3, before you walk in, you need to anchor yourself. You need to take a moment to ground. I have lots of those skills videos. The simplest ones, we're just going to deep breathe, right? Deep breath in, deep breath out. You can do some grounding. What do you see around you? What's your favorite color in the room? What's the ugliest color in the room? Can you feel your feet on the ground in your shoes? Trying to breathe a little slower. And your body needs to know that this moment is different. And remember, you are not a child anymore. You actually have options, even if it doesn't feel that way. You can leave, and you are safe. Your body may feel like you are still a child, that you are still powerless. Your body needs to know this moment is different. And if you feel like you're a little kid in those moments, it's probably connected back to when some trauma or relational ruptures happened. Those are important things to explore in therapy when we have those feelings or those general ego states we call those feelings of when we were younger in our lives. Those are important to explore. Prep your exit plan, okay? Number 4, prep your exit plan. Now, this isn't planning for drama. It's about giving yourself an option. And part of building in safety is knowing how this uncomfortable situation is going to end. So planning all the way through, this is what I'm going to do to ground myself before I walk in, right? This is how I'm going to set the boundary. And then these are my options A, B, and C of how I navigate afterwards, okay? Prepping your exit plan, knowing how you're going to leave, having those few reasons in the back of your pocket. Those are awesome. Those are your backups, your safety nets. Maybe it's saying, we'll stay until dessert and then head out. And then you actually have to leave after you eat dessert. It can be a partner or a friend who checks in with you and helps remind you that, hey, it's time to leave. It can be a text that you send to someone who's safe if you start to spiral. Even just knowing you can leave helps your nervous system settle. And the last one, give yourself permission to be proud. Holding boundaries, even thinking about them, is hard work. It's brave. You are interrupting patterns that may go back generations. You are doing emotional labor most people never even recognize. It might feel messy. It may go messy. You may plan for setting a boundary that it doesn't feel possible in the moment. That's okay. You still did more than you did before. You might freeze. You might over-explain. That's okay. You're trying. You're noticing. You're moving towards something different. And that matters. Do you know how you complete a marathon? 26.2 miles? One step at a time. You take one step off the starting line, and then you take a lot of steps. I think for me, my step count when I finished my first marathon in April was like 50,000 steps, okay? That's how I finished 26.2 miles, was one step at a time. And for a lot of people, setting boundaries is their marathon, and you do it one step at a time. Let's take a breath together. You are not walking into this gathering unprepared. You've done more emotional prep work than most people will ever do. Most people unconsciously either go along with how things have always gone, or they reactively push back. You are considering how to change things in a healthy way. You are not looking for conflict. Even if setting boundaries causes conflict, again, that's a sign something's unhealthy. You're looking for peace. Okay? If people have felt entitled to come into my backyard and they're throwing raves there every night, it's not going to be pretty to kick people out. But I'm not causing conflict when I kick people out. I'm protecting my peace. And it's okay if not everyone understands that. You get to protect your energy. You get to change old patterns at any point in your life. Just because you're a certain age. It doesn't matter if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. It doesn't matter if you're 100 years old. You are allowed to change patterns at any time. And you get to walk in more rooted, more grounded, more prepared, even if it's just 1% more than last year. I'm so proud of you for listening to this, for sitting with this. This really is so hard. And listen, I've walked the walk and talked the talk. I've had to set boundaries that are very uncomfortable for me to set. I know how hard it is. But I know the peace that's on the other side of it. I know the quietness that comes from not engaging in the drama and the conflict. It's actually really nice. But I know this is hard. So I'm just so grateful that you're considering it. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so glad that you are working on being a healthier version of yourself. It's needed. That is how this world becomes a better place. So if the holidays are going to bring up a lot of anxiety, a lot of tension, I'm sorry. And I know that you are capable of doing something different. The holidays bring up a lot of grief. I'm sorry. I hope that you can find small, tiny ways for the holidays to feel okay, for them to feel different, to have some glimmers of some positive things, or some people, or some food that you enjoy in the midst of really difficult circumstances. And I would encourage you to consider what outside help you may need to do this. You may need therapy, and that's great. It may be a trusted mentor, someone that you really respect and admire the way that they have navigated situations in their life. It is okay to need help doing this. We all do. So this wraps up our series of navigating the holidays with tricky people. I hope it was helpful. More than anything, I want this podcast to be practical. I want to talk about the topics that people actually want to talk about and need to understand better and want to understand better, and help people learn the skills and learn the behaviors to do things differently. So I'll be taking a little break from uploading, but I am planning something fun with potentially my very first guest that is going to be centered around setting New Year's resolutions the right way so that they're sustainable. So keep an eye out for that. At some point, we both know that I'm not going to promise due dates because I struggle with those. But thank you for listening. So remember, you don't have to do this alone. Come back whenever you need to.